Hello, my name is Matt Bird, and welcome to the PublishU Podcast, where we feature the real life stories of authors from around the world. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Addy O from London in the United Kingdom, who has written a book called Under Pressure, which is part of a book series called Broken Scales. Addy, you are very welcome.
Thank you, Matt. Good day.
It's great to have you on the show. You're really very welcome. Tell our listeners and viewers a little something about who Addy is and what Addy does.
Goodness me. Addy used to be a very dedicated data analyst, data consultant. I still continue to be that, but now an author of, as Matt rightly says, Under Pressure, the first of four within the Broken Skills. For fun, I do like to hang out with a bunch of guys who do lots of barbecuing and touring of places where we go and see more barbecuing. That
Now,
includes,
hold on a minute. Let me just get this right. You love barbecuing together and cooking meat, but you tour to visit other places that do barbecues.
we do. We've done a US tour, a Northern Spain tour as well.
Wow.
So yes, I could bore you more with all of that, but
Yeah,
and then
I think we would be very happy talking about that for the rest of the podcast. But let's leave it there for now, and we'll chat about it offline sometime. I love a good barbecue, slow cooked. Oh, let's not go there.
no, no,
But this is what you do for fun.
yes.
Very good. And you married? You have kids?
I was married, which is the beginning inspiration for this book, and went through a longish divorce. And now with a partner of 5 years, and between us, we have four boys. So
Wow.
that occupies a lot more time. I think that's why I run away to the barbecue. But yeah, we've got uh, three of them clustered together. They're essentially 18, 17, and 16, and a younger one who's 10. So they're kind of self-sufficient, not really. But so you find yourself doing one activity or another with all of them. Even the grown-ups need a CV done, a job application, and an exam period. So it builds up, but it's all fun. They're all very good kids.
Sounds like a five-a-side football team.
It is. Yeah. So yeah, and then I say the missus and I try and balance them and get away from them. So yeah, all in good amounts.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Love that, Addy. So let me just ask you to reflect back for a moment, if I may. When did the thought first cross your mind that you would like to write a book?
Mm. I think I would say after the level of pressure I felt during a divorce, the amount of emails, the amount of tactics, shall I say, that I was receiving, and I was like, yeah, this isn't quite normal. This is not normal. This is an unusual level because I felt I was speaking with common sense and logic, and the responses I was getting were not. So I started to get a feel for there's a book here, but it wasn't the book I thought it would be. And I think you know this because when I first met you, I was going to write a tactics book, tell all, make sure everyone, the men don't make the same financial mistakes and don't, come a cropper with the UK system. But actually, within a week, the second week of the engagement, write my book course, I spoke to Maya, my partner, and she said, "Well, it's like any good movie. People don't care who gets murdered in the first hour, first half hour. Why should they care? You need to give them a reason to care about this story." And she was like, "Well, I've witnessed this, and there's a lot of emotion to this, and there's a lot more to it." And I actually just recalled that conversation with my friend Nathan about four battlegrounds, beg your pardon, and being mental health, finances, children, and the moral high ground. And actually, we always forget the moral high ground bit whenever we go back to recall it because of the hijinks involved. But when we play that, realize, okay, well, start with the mental health bit, because actually that's an area which I didn't think was, I didn't understand what mental health was in that regard. I thought it was literally the clinic and the NHS or, stuff like that. And that's very on the
Yeah.
nose,
Yeah.
pressure can create
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
mental health.
Well, let's come on to the books in a minute, but first I wanted to ask you. So, as you dealt with this, I mean, every divorce is difficult, but it sounds like you dealt with a particularly difficult and a divorce with a lot of pressure. Um, and that's when you first thought about writing a book. When you came to start writing it, I'd love to just to hear from you what you felt your greatest obstacle was and how you feel you overcame it and were helped to overcome it.
Yeah. So I think it was going to be writing a book about mental health. That was going to be the hardest thing because I compartmentalized so much and didn't realize actually that there were so many facets and so many things I'd overcome. And when I started to follow the framework which you provide, I was able to, well, the brainstorm, that was the starting point. The brainstorm, and I have a picture of the dining table, which of course you asked us to share. And I got to 101 bullet points.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was actually in there. I didn't think I had that in my mind. And then the mind mapping of putting those into themes that are the same. Um, that's really it. That's when it really was like, oh, there's a lot here. And when I looked at it and I structured it into an outline, I was like, oh, actually, I like the way it reads. I like the way this flows from opening surprise to absolute pattern analysis of, oh, that was a thing. I didn't imagine it. Let's put it that way. I think if you run away from what occurred, you can continue to compartmentalize and forget about it. But
Mm.
I was able to now see it in writing, in a structure, and go, oh, wow, it did happen. Um, and
Yeah.
there it is.
So the challenge was feeling overwhelmed by how much you had to say. Is that what you're saying?
I think maybe the challenge, yeah, would be having to stay structured about what you say and don't rant, because a lot of themes of pressure may seem similar, but actually there's slight nuances each time with how you apply pressure, how you escalate it, and so on. So it's really just trying to find a structured way to share and not feel like I'm ranting about what occurred. And then take it to the next level where it is reflective, but also can it be guidance for anyone else so that
Mm.
they can see, yes, it was a lot, it was overwhelming. Everyone
Mm.
who's read the book has felt that actually. Uh, I was about to name some folks who have read it, but we do have some endorsements on there. And the feeling was the overwhelming. I don't think anyone realized how much you can go through, but to ultimately shape it into reflection and then guidance is really. I'm quite happy with that about that.
Mm. I like that. I like that. So from emotional overwhelm to deep reflection,
Yes,
personally, to practical advice or guidance for other people.
yes,
Yeah, yeah. So there was a lot of work to do there, and actually what has come out the other end for you isn't just one book. Actually, it's a series of books, um, and all about working your way through the challenge and the difficulty of divorce.
yes.
What was the moment when you thought, no, I've actually got four books rather than one here? Was it as you came out of this feeling overwhelmed by the amount of
I
stuff you
think,
had to
I
say?
think, yeah, I think the mind mapping helped because when we did the brainstorm and I did the mind mapping, it's like, well, this is very legal, tactical that you've written on this post-it note, whereas
Yeah.
this other post-it note is very much emotional. Um, yeah, so it was like, okay. They're different themes going on there, and then some of them were outright children, and because they were children, I felt quite protective of that. And again, that conversation about their four battlegrounds. So, well, if there are four battlegrounds that in my situation I face, if you don't have children, of course, and you go through this, it may well just be three battlegrounds, as in mental health, control, and finances. But in my
Yeah.
case, those four allow me to break them into four, and then they can be slightly distinctive. You know, you can have a rant maybe in the finance book, and in
I
the
think you could
children's
probably have
book,
a rant in all the books.
yes.
But
Well, the
Andy,
second one, you know,
I'm
is
going to
for
jump in here because
yes,
I want to focus in on the Under Pressure book, the book
yes.
that's now published. It's globally available. Anybody can read it. Tell us, what is the core message of encouragement that you bring through Under Pressure?
Okay, so it starts off with pressure compresses thinking, urgency distorts your judgment, but the actual arc then moves on to containment over escalation, preserving your optionality, and then structure, create structure out of chaos. But lastly, rebuilding control through boundaries, and then using these in other parts of your life. So the book eases you out into guidance around, or at least reflection on other places in your life where this build-up of boundaries and containments will allow you to be a bit calmer. That's actually the elements in it, where if you are being overwhelmed and a situation is seemingly chaotic, unrecognizable, allows you to identify just some key things to say, yeah, this isn't really what it should be. So one of the ones is manufactured urgency. How do you identify that? If you can identify manufactured urgency, you can relieve the pressure of yourself. If somebody continues to act in a certain way, or an environment does, create boundaries. Those boundaries are protective of yourself. So all of those along the way will then ultimately allow you as an individual to have better peace of mind. And
Mm.
if you approach many other stressful situations in a similar way, you can always be a bit more relaxed about identifying it, creating a boundary.
Mm. And Addy, do you think sometimes we are the ones that manufacture urgency?
Well, of course. Of course, if you are, there's so many situations where you might want to be the one who manufactures urgency for a game, sales of sorts, you know, anything you want to sell. So yes, absolutely.
So
Might it
give
be
us an
no?
example. I might give us a really concrete example. Where was a moment in your divorce where you felt like there was an urgency put upon you, which actually was not. It was, as you put it, manufactured.
There are quite a few. So I will try and think of a short one. um, so I had offered to pay part of the rent for my ex-wife, and she rejected it and said, "Yeah, that amount wasn't enough, or something rather." A few months down the line, um, she said that she had not paid any of the rent, and therefore there was a need to pay the arrears when we got divorced. And I said, okay, that's interesting. And then I was asked to co-sign to um, pay that full arrears, and I was like, well, no, I've already made an offer which I thought was reasonable. If you accepted it and wanted more, then say so, but you just outright rejected. I said, well, within 7 days, we need an answer, this, that, and the other. And I just couldn't understand why the 7 days. There was no court order for this. There was no reason or rhyme. So um, to try and cut it short, I said no. And I was asked up to more times, maybe five more times, the same question. I just kept saying no. And I think sometimes when you're asked multiple times the same question, you alter your response. You might alter your response each time because you feel under pressure to do so, as opposed to no is no. And you see it in many situations. I was about to divert onto a dating show we're watching at the moment, but you have to stop me very soon because that example will not be very
Let's
helpful
go to
to
the
the book.
dating show.
That's with the missus, by the way, one of our
Yeah.
fun things to do together.
Yeah, absolutely. Not barbecue.
No.
So, so what is, share with us one of the, what I would call deeper learnings from your book that you're passing on as practical guidance to others?
So creating boundaries. I know someone at the moment who is separating and receives a phone call at 10 p.m. at night, and they have a fractious conversation about something. It could be innocuous, arranging a swim for the kids, or when next they have to swap them over. And I've said to him, don't take phone calls anymore after 7 p.m. because you're now co-parenting. So you need to create boundaries. If you're not in a good place, until you're in a good place, don't take personal calls after a certain time, and don't meet in the cafe down the road to just do handover for the kids. Use the school. Drop the kids at school in the morning. The other person picks them up in the afternoon. That's just creating boundaries. And that enables both parties a bit of space. And that space means that you have fewer negative interactions. Create boundaries.
Mm-hmm. It's a great illustration. And is this something that you did or something you wish you'd done when you went through
Oh,
your...
no. This is something I did. It took a while to get that in place. I recognized the feeling of being overwhelmed and having unhelpful interactions on her doorstep because she insisted that the handovers were at doorstep. So no, I think the schools make more sense. They go to school in the morning, I'll pick them up in the afternoon. I'll drop them back, and so on and so forth. And she fought against that, but took some months. We got a court order for it, and that made things so much more easier. So definitely a lived experience that you create these boundaries and they make for fewer negative interactions.
And so, Addy, as we come into a wrap up our conversation about your book, what is it you hope is the impact of your book in the world?
I think well, there are mistakes that people men make during the separations where we're operating in a very busy world. A lot of times, very busy folks running businesses, high paying jobs, whatever it may be, busy jobs. And we don't have the capacity for the emotional load that women may have. And I think I've seen a couple of men just fall apart in these conversations and have arguments and have misinterpretations with their partner very early on. And I think with the book, it really just goes through examples to say, well, you may think you're okay right now, but actually you're having conversations and you're reacting in ways that are not helping both parties. So again, recognize when somebody's calling you at 10 p.m. at night to try and have a conversation about an arrangement in a certain way. You don't need to do it that way. Make arrangements well in advance. Think about what's going to happen when you have that interaction with each other. You're now managing a fractious exit of a relationship. And whilst there may be calm moments, you can only ensure that they stay calm by having boundaries and being very clear about what you're doing. So it's really, it requires thought, is my point. And I think we assume that we still know that person and we're all going to be nice to each other, but actually not intentionally, but there are lots of emotions on all sides, and therefore parties need guidance to ensure it doesn't get worse. It will get better. That's the point. Relationships will get better, but for a period, they will not be very helpful to either party. And I hope this book gives people the opportunity to see how things can go wrong, but more importantly, how you can ensure they stay calm.
Calm. That's a great word to finish on. Calm. Well, Addy, thank you so much. And thank you all for listening to the PublishU podcast, where we feature the genuinely real stories of authors from around the world. If you're interested in becoming an author or even a serial author like Addy is, then please do visit our website, publishu.com. publishu.com. And if you enjoyed this broadcast, please make sure you subscribe for more. Thank you so much for joining us. and goodbye for now.